So welcome, Britt-Marie. It's great to have you on the show with us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Now, I'm really intrigued about your business because you're the Honeymoon Fixer and you help people have these beautiful destination weddings and a honeymoon to really treasure and remember for a lifetime. But I'm really curious, how did you start that business? I mean, it doesn't sound to me like an easy business to just wake up and think, oh, I'm going to do this today.
No. So it wasn't actually honeymoons that I originally started with. I just started in the travel industry. But I'll sort of go back a little bit and I'll give you just a little bit about my career and how I started. So I've basically worked since a very, very young age. So I've been working since from around the age of probably around 13. My parents owned pubs. So I've always had this desire and passion to work. So I was brought up in a pub in London. It was a theatre pub, so it was very busy. I used to go downstairs and help behind the bar. I mean, this was back in the 90s. You were allowed to do things like that. Since so many laws like we have now. And I used to just serve pints behind the bar. I absolutely loved it. And then when I was around 15, 16, I went and worked in my parents' pubs around Cheltenham and Wales and places like that. So it's just something I've always been used to. Unfortunately, my mum passed away when I was quite young. She passed away when I was 17. And I was living on my own then after she passed away in London. So I had to fend for myself. I had to be out there, get a job, work hard. So it's something that's always been instilled in me. I then, over the years, started working for various different companies within the corporate industry, which I got some fantastic experience. I learnt my craft as such. And then I found the field that I was quite passionate about was sales and training. And I just seemed to have a bit of a spark within that field. So I quite quickly climbed the ranks in my industry. I always got in trouble in work. I climbed the ranks, but it was never easy because I would see things differently from people. And I would say, I think we should do it this way, or I think we should do it that way. And it would all sometimes mean treading on someone's toes. And it was never a malicious thing. It was just, I saw things differently. And for that, I tend to get in trouble with my manager or my director. And it's like, no, you shouldn't have done it that way. You should have done it this way. You can't go directly to that person. You must do. I just could never understand that. Like, why should I jump through 5, 6, 7 layers when we can just fix it now? So I found it very frustrating. Anyway, it paid the bills and I managed to get myself promoted. So my last role that I had within the corporate industry was for a big telecoms company, and I was their events account manager, and I was doing really well. And then I decided to start my family. So I had my daughter back in 2015. And whilst I was off on maternity, I think it was 8 weeks into my maternity, I got a call to say that they were restructuring, and my job was part of that restructure. And there was 2 of us in my little team. There was 3 of us, including my manager, and then there was going to be 1 role left. Both of us were actually on maternity leave. And funny enough, I'd gone to see the other lady. She'd gone over to Spain, so I knew she was leaving the business. She wasn't going to come back, and she said, Britt, you have the job. But what they wanted to do is they wanted to amalgamate this job and make it one, which meant I was going to be on the road all the time, traveling. I was just like, I'm not doing that. Like, I can't. This is my priority, is my family. So they basically said to me, if you don't take this job, there's no other role for you. We're going to have to make you redundant. And effectively, they were saying I'd be making myself redundant. So, no, this doesn't sound right to me. So, long story short, what they were doing was wrong, and I managed to negotiate quite a good redundancy package to leave. So here I was, brand new, small baby. I think it took about 8 or 9 months for me to go through the redundancy process, which was really stressful. And that was my maternity time. That's the time I should be with my daughter, enjoying that time as a new parent. I feel that was taken away from me. So there was this whole stress. I was negotiating, I was going through lawyers and all of this, not very pleasant situation, whilst again having this small baby. And my husband and I were in the kitchen. So where I'm sitting now, that's my little kitchen over there. We're having a glass of wine. And I said to him, like, what am I going to do? We've just got a new mortgage. We were just about to move from here into a bigger house. I was like, what am I going to do? I had a really well-paid job. And I said, am I making the right decision? Should I just go back and work and take this job, which they weren't going to pay me any more for? I was going to have double the workload, be paid the same amount, be away from my family even more. And I was like, no, I can't do that. So my husband said to me, he said, you've always loved travel. We've always travelled. I travelled with even my daughter from when she was 3 weeks old. I booked all of our holidays. It's something that we got married in Mauritius ourselves. It was something I was just always really just passionate about and loved to do. And he said, do you think you could possibly do what you do for us, for other people? I was like, I'm not in travel. How do I do that? So the redundancy finally went through. I managed, as I said, to negotiate quite a nice payoff. And I started doing a lot of research on how to get into the travel industry. Would I need to go and work in a travel agency? Would I need to do a course? Like, what is it I needed to do? So I was quite keen to explore that opportunity. And then I found there were lots of different types of company that you could basically franchise into. And there were quite a few on the market of all variants, of different variants of offering different things and such. And I settled on a company called Not Just Travel, as I felt that was the right fit for me. My husband was not very convinced. He thought it was a very big risk. I was about to pay £20,000 to go in and franchise into this company that we didn't know an awful lot about, who promised, to help me create a very successful travel business. And I just was like, I'm going to do this. I want to do this. I found the company I want to do with. I've got the passion now. I've got the drive. So I went off and I did a lot of research on what I wanted to do, what I wanted to specialise in. I did lots of online courses, lots of courses on the travel and geography and all sorts. And I just put my head down and I just, for 6 months, knuckled down and studied. I went back and forth, had various different meetings with the organisation I was going to join, and then decided, yep, this is what I'm going to do. One of the things I did do originally was I went out to all of my family and my sort of friend base on Facebook, and I did just a bit of marketing, like to find out, if I was to set up my own travel business, would there be an interest in my direct family and my friends at the very least, just to start with. So I put out a survey monkey, and I sent it out and I said, I'd really appreciate you just to fill this out for me, just so I can get some feedback. And loads of people responded and said, of course we would support you. I think it's a great idea. You're doing this for your family, amazing. And I was like, okay, so I know I've got the support. This is all looking great. Let me, my husband's backing me, my friends, my family. This sounded like a viable option for me. So I took the plunge and I joined Not Just Travel. And when I started, when I started, they were talking about what part of the industry do you think best suits you? What would you like to work in? So they gave you loads of different examples of what you could do. So you could do family holidays, you could specialise in ski, you could specialise in a country, but for me, I had this whole idea about new moons. Because I feel every month we have a new moon and we have a new opportunity. So it's like the universe giving us this clean slate every month to start again. So we can forget about the mistakes we've made the previous month and let's start this new month afresh. And for me, I felt my new moon was having my daughter, being made redundant, starting this new business, this new career. So that for me was going to be my niche. So for me, I was like, baby moons, honeymoons, mini moons, anything that had a moon to it. So I was in my training course. It was around December time. It was the first time I'd left my daughter. She was she'd just gone past 1, so she was 1 in September. So it was December. It was just coming up to my birthday. I was a bit all over the place. Never left her before. And turned up for this training, and we're in the course, and we're talking about our niches and what we want to specialise in. And bearing in mind, I'd done a lot of research, and I thought, right, got married in Mauritius, perfect, I could help with it, I could start planning destination weddings. I've done that, I've experienced that. The Indian Ocean was an area that I was an expert in, I felt. And I had started putting it all together. And when I told them my niche, they sort of went, it's too broad, like that's not niched enough. Like anyone can do honeymoons. Every travel agent in the world can put a honeymoon together. It's too niche, you need to find something different. And bang, my bubble had been burst. So everything I'd been planning for. So I then felt very disheartened. I was like, have I joined the right company? Like I've just invested this huge amount of money and I just felt straight away I wasn't getting the support. So fast forward, cut long story short, I thought, no, I'm going to stick to this. I'm going to go out, I'm going to promote myself and I'm going to say this is what I do. So what I did first of all is I let everybody know that I was in business and this was what I was going to be now doing. And the one person I remember at the beginning of my business who was phenomenal for me and was a great referral tool for me was my beautician. So I used to go and see her, and like we were having whatever treatment and she couldn't wait. Her name's Emma. She was like, Britt, as soon as you're up and running, please, please, please. I've got so many friends that are about to get married that would love your service. Please just get me your information. And I was like, okay. I thought, will it happen? Okay, as soon as I launched on the 16th of December, I had my flyers printed. I went and saw her the week after, left her with them. And literally within a couple of days, my phone rang and it was her friend. And she was looking into her honeymoon. She'd love for me to help her. So here I was, never sold a holiday before in my life, had done lots of research, but the actual reality was here now that I now needed to put this package together. So I had access to lots of trade suppliers. I had all the support from the industry. It wasn't just like, oh, I've become a travel agent. I did lots of formal training and legalities and all sorts of things. So it wasn't just like, oh, here I am, I'm about to book a holiday. So I knew I had access to lots of different suppliers that could help me package this and help me in that area of expertise. And of course, making sure my customers protected whilst booking through me. So we worked on the honeymoon. She ended up going to the Maldives. It was an island called Kuramati. And she booked within 10 days of me talking to her, having the connection. And that was my first ever booking. So for me, that was confirmation that the new moon, the honeymoon thing wasn't just a fad. That was what I should be doing. My first booking was a honeymoon. This was going to work. She then became a great referral tool. So she referred me. So at this stage, it wasn't just honeymoons I did. And I still do lots of various different types of holidays, not just honeymoons. And from that, I started getting lots of referrals. And within that first month of me being in business, the bookings started to come in. Now, I've made that sound quite easy in the sense of how the bookings just came in. But of course, it wasn't just that easy. There was lots of research that went into that and lots of trust that had to come from, these new clients. And why would they book for me and hand over these large sums of money and trust me? That part clicked, and people did trust me, and there's no reason not to. And from that, when they had that experience, they then referred, and the clients, thankfully, from that perspective, started to come in. So that's how the business was born. The name came slightly later. I started to get a bit of a reputation. I started doing lots of wedding fairs and going to wedding fairs, still under the Not Just Travel branding at this stage. And I was at a wedding fair. It's called the Company for Main Event Weddings, and it was up in, I believe, Cheltenham or somewhere like that. I can't quite remember where it was now. And I was approached by a journalist, and she said, I'd love to do a piece on you to find out about what you do and why people come, you're the go-to person for honeymoons and all of this stuff. And I said, great. So they did an interview for me just for Bridal Magazine, not like this huge publisher. It was just a bridal magazine. And it came out a couple of weeks later, and she named me the Honeymoon Fixer. So that's where the name came from. So I can't say I sat there with a marketing team and had a great idea and, we strategized this name. That it was basically given to me. And I remember when I read it that day, I was just like, oh my gosh, yes, I am. That is me. I am the Honeymoon Fixer. That was my intention. I visualized it. I never knew that was the name I was looking for, but it was like, again, the universe had given me this name. I do believe it was sort of manifested in a way through everything that I put out there to the universe. And so that's how the name came about, And I went out and I just bought the domains up for my website. I bought the email addresses. I was like, well, I'm going to get that name and it's going to become my name. So that was the name. And then about, I think 18 months into the franchise, I realized we had come to the end of the road as a relationship, as in working together. I felt quite restricted. I didn't have the support that had been promised. I'd done everything on my own, even from like the niche. They didn't really support that. When it, really took off, they were very, supportive of it then. But actually, I did all that on my own. So I thought, why am I paying you a big percentage of my commission every month? So that's when I decided to go independently, to join a consortium and to set up my own travel agency in its own merit. And I did that on August the 23rd, 2018. So just around 18 months after I'd actually been in business, I then took the plunge and went independently. I had enough clients and enough customers to be able to be confident enough to go and do that. Mm. Yeah. And then from there, the business has grown. I've been in business now coming up to 4 years. I've actually got 4 ladies that now work with me. So there's 5 of us in total. They're called holiday fixers. I am the only honeymoon fixer, and thankfully, up until COVID, the business has gone from strength to strength. It has been very difficult and very hard. There have been some months where I've really been like, what on earth am I doing? I've not been paid some months because, money hasn't come in, or, especially over COVID. And 2019 decided it was going to give me another curveball, and I got diagnosed with breast cancer.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so last year, June the 11th last year, my whole world got flipped on its head when, sort of hit me then, sorry. When I got diagnosed with breast cancer. So since then, I've had, in the last 16 months, I've had 8 rounds of chemotherapy, I've had a double mastectomy, I've had a hysterectomy. Thankfully, I'm now cancer-free, but that was a huge curveball to come in on my journey of, growing my business, and it being, me about to push it forward and really grow my home working division. It's like, the universe is saying, we want to give you another little bit of a test here, Britt, to see how you can get on with this one. I got through it. The business actually grew quite a lot last year through my treatment. I took on more clients, I took on more home workers. From a business perspective, it was a great year. And then, as I said, as you know, we've been in a worldwide pandemic since March year.
What an incredible story. And just so much, so many hidden lessons buried in there. And I'd like to kind of just take a moment to unpack.
Oh, yeah, there's been a lot of information. Sorry for just going off on one there.
No, it's great. It's great. And so it was really interesting to me that you said, I decided to start this travel business and I just jumped in. But in fact, you didn't just jump in. You may have committed, but you did a lot of study and research. That well, as sure as you can ever be, that you were kind of taking that a step that you could commit to. And so how much of that was sort of just faith, and how much of that part of it getting started was really down to I've done my due diligence, I know this can work?
Yeah, I think I'd say 80% of it was real faith. So I've obviously gone in and I've done my research, but until I'm a practicing travel agent or professional in my industry, I don't really know which way it's going to go. Yeah, friends have said they'll book with me, which FYI, they didn't. No. So I set up a business.
Lie in this.
They do.
They try. They want to. They want to support you. They want to say the right thing. But until you ask people to put their money where their mouth is, then it doesn't happen.
It's so hard, and I found that really difficult. I used to get so angry because I'd see all my friends going on holiday, and they'd be posting it all over Facebook, and I'd be sitting there going, you haven't even come to me and just asked. So a lot of it was a lot of faith. And actually, in hindsight, just to reiterate on that, I think I'm glad a lot of my friends didn't book with me, first of all, because they do now, by the way. It would have been like, give us a discount here and give us a discount there. And I say this to my home workers all the time, like, your friends and family should support your business. If you book that holiday elsewhere and pay the exact same price, and they would pay it to a complete stranger, why would they not invest in you? Why would they expect you to then discount your service and you to then give them that discount back? Like, that always sort of blew my mind. My friends and family get it now. Like, if they can book the exact same holiday that I can book them at the exact same price, of course they're going to book it through me, and then I get the benefit of that commission. It's a no-brainer, and I do loyalty, come back to me schemes and stuff like that, which is great. But that sort of blew my mind. But a lot of faith, then 20% was you've done your research, you know what you want to do. So
you're as ready as you can be. Until you actually take action, you can't be sure. And I see a lot of people thinking, well, I'll wait until, or I'll get more confident first and then I'll start these things, without realizing the confidence comes from going through it and figuring it out, and then you get the confidence. It happens the other way. But as long as you can commit to an idea, because where you start is never quite where you end up. You evolve, you learn, you grow along the way. So it kind of doesn't matter where you start, as long as you just start somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really interesting. This is going to sound like a very random analogy, but I was cooking a Christmas pudding over the weekend. It was my mum's recipe. well, no, it was her Delia Smith, but my mum used to do it. She used to make everyone this Christmas pudding. And I remember it as a child. We used to all stir it and we'd all make a wish. And it was a really lovely moment we'd do. So it's taken me 21 years to make this Christmas pudding. But anyway, I popped it on Facebook on a group and someone kept asking this question about, oh, what temperature do I put it on? And does the water have to be boiling beforehand before I steam, or can I do it cold? I said, you're steaming it for 8 hours. It really doesn't matter if the water's hot or cold when you start. It's the process it goes through and what it finishes at the end. But she was really hung up on the fact that before I steam it, before I put it in, does it need to be hot or cold? And I'm like, it's an 8-hour process. You'll find your way. Like, it really doesn't matter if the water's hot or cold. And you just saying that made me think of that as an analogy. Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's a great one, though. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't matter. Just get in there, get started, figure it out. Because there's a lot of figuring out to do. And you can, I firmly believe you could study entrepreneurship for like 20 years, then start your business and then realize, oh, I actually needed to know all of this.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think until you've been through the ups and downs and the hardships and you've really been stung by something, I think I can teach you that lesson. I can tell you all of the things that, you know, stopped me or blocked me, or, you know, what I found difficult, or, you know, don't do this or don't do that. And that's fine. You can take those on. But I think until you've actually been through them yourself, or unfortunately you've made a mistake that might have cost you, or you've had something that happen to you personally, where then you've had to pick yourself back up again, you can't live on someone else's experience. You can be guided by it, but I think you have to really have your own experience.
You have to get the bumps and bruises.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Out along the way. So the other thing you mentioned was that you had this idea of a niche, and it was something that you were really excited by, and it really fitted to your values, to your everything that you felt was important to you. And you stuck with that, even when people were saying, "Oh no, that won't work. That's not right. You can't do that." You were like, "Oh no, this feels right to me." And I was really impressed that you were able to go with your gut. What was that process like? Is there anything that helped you to stick to your own convictions?
It's a really good question. I'm trying to.
Or was it just stubbornness?
I'm really stubborn. Yeah, I'm a really stubborn person. I think I'm a type of character that when I'm told I can't do something, it makes me more determined. So if someone says to me, "You're not good enough," or "You can't do that," I'm like, no, I don't think so. I'm going to prove you wrong. And I just really believed in what I was doing. I looked at my daughter, and she was my new moon. You know, I was doing this for her. So I'm sure anyone listening to this, you may have a child you're doing it for, there'd be a personal reason, but I think everyone's got a reason for why they're doing or want to do what they're doing. And for me, it was, I couldn't go back to that corporate world and be told, you know, you can't do this, you can't do this, and get myself back into trouble. I didn't want to leave my daughter in a nursery and not be able to bring her up the way I wanted to. You know, I worked from home, I could have her here with me when she was small. It just gave me so much freedom and flexibility. And I think that ignited the desire and the passion. And then I was like, this is going to work. This is going to work. And I think, as I said, you know, the confirmation I got was when I booked that first honeymoon. So I knew from it. It wasn't that easy. I then, you know, my next honeymoon, I don't think was probably for some months later. I ended up booking just normal holidays. And I still do, like, not everything I do is honeymoons. You know, there's lots of variety of stuff, but it still came back to the honeymoons, and it still came back, you know, all my feedback, all of my reviews I've got all about the honeymoons and the weddings that I've created for my clients. So yeah, it was the belief that it was going to work. It had to.
I think that's all you really need more than anything else, is that self-belief, a strong why. And your why can change. So like when I started, it was just very similar to you. I don't want to go back to corporate and never see my daughter again. You know, it would, if I went back to work full time and commuting as well, I literally would never have seen my daughter. And that just, I was like, no, I can't do that. So, but my why now is obviously changed because I've evolved. I'm at a different time with my kids growing up. Well, not growing up, but growing up.
Yeah, they're not so dependent on you as such, are they? They can make their own sandwiches now, and, you know, silly little things like that.
Exactly, which has been like a godsend during lockdown. So it's having that trust in yourself, I think, is really important. And the other thing you were talking about was that you went out and you told people about your business. And this strikes me, I'm always a bit surprised at the number of people who are a bit shy or a bit timid to tell people around them about what they're doing now. Yet for most people, then their first 2 or 3 clients are relatively easy to find because they're already around you. If people who are in your network already connect with you, they already have a certain amount of trust and in you, you have that credibility with them. And if it's a problem that you've identified, then it's usually a problem for many people in your network too. So it's great that you got out there, you spoke about your business even before it was like a thing. And then like your hairdresser's like, oh, well, and of course you think you might not have thought of it beforehand, but when you said it, hairdresser, was like, well, of course, hairdressers have to do weddings. So they have all this great network that you can tap into.
Yeah, and I wasn't trying to sell my business to everyone. I just spoke about my business with passion. You know, the reality of what I do. Everyone goes on holiday, right? Hopefully, everyone will experience a honeymoon in their life, or if not, they'll go on a romantic trip somewhere or do something. So the product that I sell is actually a no-brainer. It's really easy. It's a real nice thing to talk about, even through the awful times that we've been through in the last 8 months. Everyone wants to talk about or dream about going on a nice holiday. So for me, that part, was a no-brainer. But you're right, the amount of people I spoke to when I started doing a lot of female networking, so I did that also in the beginning, and the amount of people that I would talk to at networking, and they would be like, wow, your story is really inspiring, and how did you do this? And like, you just talk about it. Like the amount of people that are, like you said, so closed off, and they said, I just didn't think about speaking to my family, you know, marketing this or doing. And I just was like, how would you expect people to know about you then? Like, people can't read your mind. People don't know that's what you do unless you tell them that's what you do. And then don't sell to them, just put yourself out there and let them know, put yourself in front of them. So the next time that person might be looking for that thing, hopefully they'll think of you first before thinking of anybody else. So
yeah, exactly. And not everyone you speak to is going to become a client, but if they know what you do and they feel your passion and energy for what you do, they will refer other people to you. I remember I had when I was doing my communication consultancy, my first business, I had one client who kept out saying, yeah, I want you to work on this project, but it took 5 years before that project actually happened. But over those 5 years, she referred me to so many people. It was amazing. I was like, I almost was quite happy she didn't become a client, because she was then already actively bringing me new clients. And the number of people I've met who have never become a client but referred so many people to me. So it's so important to get confident talking about your business. You don't have to, or don't, and in fact it's better if you don't try and sell it to people immediately. You want to just show your passion and your energy and your excitement for what you do and your excitement for the results you get for others. Share that with as many people as possible, and you'll be amazed at how often that's almost enough to drive your business. In fact, that's the only marketing I ever did in my first business, was talking to other people about what I did. And that for 8 years, that was fully booked as a consultant.
Amazing.
And high ticket as well. It wasn't like some cheap thing. So, and I think it's just an opportunity I see a lot of people missing, but it can take time to get confident in what you're doing and how to talk about that. So I think that's okay.
I mean, for me, I think I'm quite a confident person anyway, so it was that wasn't an obstacle I had to overcome. Like when it came to a 60-second speech, I could stand up quite happily in a room full of people and talk. And I know that alone for some people is such an obstacle to overcome, and the fear in that alone would put so many people off. So I get that, and I'm not. For me, that was just an easier part. My other struggles came with, you know, the loneliness of starting a business, working on my own. I'm a really, you can tell, chatty person. I'd sit here and I'd be like, oh my gosh, like I'm on my own again, or Ava, would need to sleep. I'm trying to do a booking, and I worked so many hours. Like, it's interesting me that I've decided to sit here today to do my chat with you, because this is actually where I launched my business from. This little corner of my sofa was where I sat for 18 months making all of my bookings. And in that first 18 months, I made £500,000 worth of bookings. Obviously not profit, that would be amazing. And I in the corner of this sofa. This is where I do most of my work from. And then I live in a very small flat in London, so I try to get a desk in here, but it just didn't quite work. So I now work around and do different things, and when you can get out, I go to office spaces and stuff. But yeah, it all got creative from here. But for me, that became quite suffocating as well, because everything was in my house. My work was in my home, my child was in my home, my family life was in my home, this sofa was in my home, and it was like I then had to find a separation from that to separate my life from my business. And I sit here now with my hand on my heart, I still haven't cracked that one. If a client messages me and they're like, Britt, we need you, especially because I've been rebooking and moving for the last 9 months, I don't want any of my clients to sit there panicking that something's wrong and they can't get hold of me. So as soon as my phone goes, I'm like, oh, I got it, I'll just call you tomorrow. I'll at least acknowledge them. And I still need to get that separation from myself and my business. But it's hard when it's your own business.
Yeah. And having that time management, productivity, boundaries, getting all that up and running within your business isn't easy at all. It can take time, particularly setting those boundaries. And well, setting the boundaries isn't necessarily so hard, it's the sticking to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And it takes time, and there's always so much we can do and learn, and then we scale up our business and we have to relearn almost, because we have a whole new skill set that you have to bring into.
Absolutely.
Then it's all about the processes and the team and the leadership, and but it's what keeps it fun and interesting.
Yeah, agreed, definitely.
You talked a bit about the ups and downs, that it hasn't been all plain sailing at all. And you mentioned that you have these moments where you question, what am I doing? And I think we all have that. I know I have this sort of 2-week cycle where I'm like, everything's going fine, and then I have this moment like, oh my gosh, can I really do this? Then, which is why I have a coach, and so we check in every week, every 2 weeks, and have these moments, and I speak to him, and it's all good again. But how have you managed those moments? Is there any particular skills or techniques that you've developed over time to help?
For me, I mean, it's slightly quirky, and it's what we touched upon before we started recording. So I work with a different type of consultant. I work with a feng shui and astrology consultant, and I have been for a couple of years now. So I have feng shuied my home to make it accommodating for my home life and my business. So I have layouts of certain things where I do my work from, and this changes annually, and to where I shouldn't be going and shouldn't be doing things because it will disturb things. So that sounds a little bit quirky for anyone that's like, what does that even mean? But for me, that is my consultant. I then have my astrology that I have. So I've got certain days that I know throughout the year that really support me and will support my business. So for example, today is a spotlight day for me. It's also what we call a nobleman day. Now, nobleman days are the nicest way to put it is like, it will be like a guardian angel coming down and just delivering you something. So you've got so much support around you. It's like when you need this thing the most, it will be like your guardian angel just appears and gives it to you. So they're really supportive days, and you can really feel the energy on those days. Yesterday, I didn't have a great day. I could feel my energy was really pulling me. It was actually, there's something going on in my chart when I looked. Whereas today is a really supported day. So I knew my spotlight day was to be on here and to talk with you, and I know it's supporting me and my business. So of course that's, the whimsical sort of side of it. And then there's other things that I put in place with just trying, as you said, setting the boundaries, trying to stick to the boundaries. I now take weekends off. I don't work weekends. I make sure that that's family time, and I really stick to that. And my clients understand that now, unless there's a huge emergency that happens. Like I said before, I'm still learning those things as well. Like as I diversify, as I grow, I have to change those, and I have to learn new methods as well to change, especially since COVID. The last 9 months, we've all been on top of each other. We live in a small flat, and I've had my husband working from home. My daughter was here. We were all just locked away. I was trying to save my business at this stage, not grow it, but literally save the business that I had grown for the last 4 years. So yeah, it's in a good place now. I'm still learning, but it's in a good place now.
Yeah, and I think it's always that sort of consistent progress, isn't it? Progress over perfection. Just keep going, keep that faith, keep that self-belief, and you'll figure it out and come out the other side.
You will figure it out. It may not be clear then, like you said. It was interesting that you said you have 2 weeks of like, oh, and then there's another 2 weeks. To me, I'm like, there's something going on in your chart there. And I suppose for me, I know from understanding my chart and understanding these different days, it will change. Like, it may feel that you've been in something for a year. That year will pass, that year will change, and there will be different energies that are brought into the next year. And then you'll start to feel things differently, and things will be more clear, or you know, you might come out of a good year and not go into not such a great year, but know that it will pass and it will change. And I have that incredible understanding now. I'm very thankful that I have that understanding, because it puts a lot of my frustrations at I can go, it's not a great time for you, and I understand why now, and I put things in place to support me while I'm going through those difficult times. I know it will pass.
And I think you mentioned about feng shui there, but I think a lot of people forget how important their environment is, particularly when you're working from home. Maintaining, figuring out what kind of environment, what kind of space, what smells, what sounds, what colors, all of these things that help you feel in control, that help you feel creative. I had a great discussion in my group recently about how when we want to be creative, that very often we go to a completely different space, and those moments where you need to feel focused and in control, then a different space altogether is better. I know for me, if I want to be creative but get things done, there's a particular cafe that I don't know, there's something about that environment that just
you're drawn to it,
to focus but also be creative at the same time. And so don't discount your environment and the importance of that as well in getting things done. I think that's a really nice point you touched on there.
No, I'm living proof of that, I believe. So if you can create an environment that works for you and supports you, I think sometimes that could be half the battle won on a day, really.
Yeah, exactly. So coming back to your business as the Honeymoon Fixer, what's the difference of having a honeymoon fixer versus figuring it out and doing it yourself? Is it do you end up with a completely different product at the end of that, or?
Pretty much, yeah. So when I normally have my sort of consultations with my clients, they come to me because they want a once in a lifetime honeymoon, and they're not quite sure what they're looking for. So we normally have however long consultation that they may need, and they might have an idea in their head, and it's my job to take that idea and put it on paper for them. So, okay, you could go on a normal holiday and you could tag that as a honeymoon, and of course you can, because everyone's honeymoon is their own desires and expectations, and they may all have something different. But for me, what I find is I understand what my clients want. I then go off and put a tailor-made package together for them. And I add so many little things from what they've told me. So they might tell me that they, over the years, have gone cycling or walking, or there's something that she loves to do. She's really into animals, or there was a passion or a dream once that they wanted to go scuba diving. And I will listen to these. And when I then deliver their package for them, I'll make sure that some of these little things that they've hinted to me about, which they didn't even know they were hinting to me about, are incorporated within that honeymoon. And then they said, I didn't even know you could do that. I didn't know we could go whale watching in South Africa. I didn't at that time of year. And then I will plan, again, for example, they might come to me and say, we want to do this in March. I know that's not a good time to do it. So I'll have to give them my advice on when it would be. And I will package it to make sure that they get the best experience in the time of year that's going to tick all of those boxes. And then, of course, there's two of them. So they've both got their own sort of opinions. I know I don't like the exact same things as my husband, but what I like to do is try and make sure that there's something for them both on that honeymoon. They've just got married. They're going to be hopefully spending the rest of their lives with each other. So this honeymoon is really about coming together and sitting there after the stress of the marriage and the craziness of the day and whatever they've been through on the build up. And it's like, we're here, we're together. And it's about them connecting and really starting their married life on the best foot. For me, it's about really listening to my clients, finding those things that they don't even realize they want from that honeymoon, and putting it together and giving it to them, all packaged, all wrapped up in this pretty bow. Yes, of course, you could go off and do that yourselves, but without the expertise, I believe, and what's been proven on my packages that I offer my clients, is they don't know what they don't know. They don't about these quirky little hotels. They don't know about these little special places or these little caves that I can do these amazing little dives in, and all these things that I've done for my clients over the years. They don't know about those, and a lot of the mainstream don't know about those. So for me, I think that's where I come alive, and that's where if I were looking to book a honeymoon that's a little bit special, I would use someone like myself that has that expertise. And I think it goes without saying at the moment, a travel agent, I feel we're invaluable at the moment for everything that has happened within the travel industry. There's lots of people that I've heard that have been left high and dry by airlines, tour companies that are not very legitimate. I've worked tirelessly for my clients over the last 9 months without being paid a single penny for my time to make sure that their honeymoons, destination weddings, holidays have either been refunded, reprotected for next year at the same rates, moving things, changing things, tweaking things, and you just don't get that service anywhere else. I truly believe it hasn't been delivered in a high street that I know of. So yeah, and again with the destination weddings, I mean, gosh, to try and plan a destination wedding from the UK when you don't have the contacts abroad, good luck with that one. It's an easy task. And again, I've got so many suppliers across the world that I now work with, the majority long haul. For example, I'm arranging a Sikh wedding in Mauritius for August next year, and we're bringing 130 people over. It's a 3-day event, and I've been able to do that all from here with the bride, with my suppliers in Mauritius. So yeah, I think that sort of explains the type of service and experience that you would get by dealing with a professional in the industry.
Yeah, amazing. And I think I'm just thinking, gosh, it would have been amazing to know you. What if you were?
I get this a lot.
When I had my honeymoon, because our honeymoon was great, but there were definitely things that we would do differently if we were to do it again. There were a few things. Oh, shame if we didn't know about that, or we spent a lot of money staying in this really, really expensive hotel for a couple of nights, and we hated it. It just wasn't us, and we saved a lot of money going to somewhere else that was more in keeping with what we wanted and who we are. And although I've got a couple of funny stories about the hotel, so that's given me some conversation.
Our podcast.
But and also with my wedding, I was living in Switzerland. I got married in the UK, near my hometown, so it was somewhere that I knew. But even so, I mean, I couldn't manage all of that on my own. We were very fortunate that the venue had an amazing planning team that helped us with everything, and we just had to trust them, and it worked out beautifully. But yeah, I mean, we couldn't have managed that at all on our own without support and the expert guidance. So such a valuable.
And I think as well with a honeymoon, you would like to think, as I said, that's a once in a lifetime trip. You probably will not have another style of holiday like that again. So this is when people tend to be, less budget sensitive. They really are looking for that wow factor. And if I don't deliver on that, if I promise them the world and go, you are going to have the once in a lifetime honeymoon that I promised, and then that fails, I'd be devastated. I'm yet to have that happen, thankfully. I mean, when things have gone wrong, flights have got delayed, things get cancelled, of course, but that is, I'm not saying you should spend a fortune on it. You're about to go into married life, so you don't want to, just fritter away money. It's very common now for people to actually contribute towards your honeymoon. So actually there's bigger budgets now because of your guests that come, they'll help pay towards that. And that's something that I offer as well. But it's what you've said. I've met quite a few people say, I wish I had a honeymoon fixer when I was getting, when we got married, it would have been so different how we'd honeymoon. So actually, interestingly, which might be a new niche for me, is I've had, when I've been at wedding fairs and when I've been recommended, it's couples that couldn't honeymoon the way they wanted to 25 years ago when they got married. So they're now doing a big anniversary moon thing, going away. So I've started to plan quite a few of those, and they tend to have bigger budgets now, and they really know what they were looking like, what they want. So for those clients that haven't had the opportunity to have that amazing honeymoon, we're now doing it as a big sort of golden anniversary or silver anniversary, which is a really nice thing to be.
And we had our 15-year anniversary this year, and we didn't manage to do it, of course, but we were going to recreate part of our honeymoon with our kids. Our families moved on, and we always feel, it's such a shame the kids weren't at the wedding. Obviously it doesn't happen that way. Obviously not in our case, but there's so many lovely ways to
really are.
special honeymoon spirit, because it really, as you say, it's just a holiday like no other.
Yeah, it is. And I think that's the thing, like until people start to speak to me and they're like, oh, I can book a honeymoon wherever, I can do it myself online, and then they start to speak to me, and then that's when they sit there and go, okay, I get now. And I don't charge a fee for what I do. It's not like, it's £500 to use my service. It's really not. My fees are all incorporated within the commissions that I get paid from my suppliers. I charge obviously a fee for the wedding organising, because that's mammoth versus me putting a honeymoon together. So for me, it's a no-brainer. Why would you not use me? And this is, I think, why my business has got as successful as it has, because it's a no-brainer. Yeah, okay, I'm not the most price-sensitive person. I will add these additional extras on that. By the time you've looked at them, you've gone, can't really afford that, but I really want it. So, but it all goes to that experience, which leads back to the niche.
Britt-Marie, I have loved speaking with you today, and it's always lovely to speak about honeymoons and weddings. And
yes, thank you.
You've already shared so much great value in terms of your business story and what's helped you along the way. But are there any final tips that have really helped you along the way that you would like to pass on to other women who are out there building their business?
Yeah, so I've written them down so I don't forget them. As I think I've said quite a lot, if you can get that niche in your industry and become that expert within your niche, go for it. I mean, if you want to Google honeymoon fixers, there's not many. I think I found one lady in America, I think. So do a bit of research. Who's in your market? Who's in your industry? How can you become that expert within your field? I found that has really helped me. Be prepared to work really hard. It doesn't just happen. Yes, I've given you some of my success stories, and yes, some of those things have happened quite easily. Actually, the bits in between are very difficult. Life, health, etc. Things will come out of nowhere, so be prepared for that. Absolutely believe in yourself. You are amazing. You can do this, and I suppose just be brave. Just go out and do it. You can do it. You will succeed. Be brave.
I love that. Be brave. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of, if you could only have one thing, it would be that, because you have to be brave in so many different ways.
Yeah.
Having that trust and self-belief and just going for it, going out there, getting outside your comfort zone, talking to people, because getting comfortable with sales and marketing and all these new things that you might not have had the experience in. There's so much new things out there, but once you are brave and you take that step, then you do grow and achieve so much more than you ever realized you could, which is really so rewarding.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to put, of course, all of your details in the show notes underneath this podcast so people can get in touch with you. But for anyone out there who is out there traveling, exploring, how can they get in touch with you?
So you can either get in touch by my website. I've got a live chat facility, which is www.thehoneymoonfixer.com. I'm on there quite often. Even if you're not looking for a honeymoon, feel free to connect through that site with me. Or I've got a quite active Facebook page, and that's at the Honeymoon Fixer. And yeah, I'm mostly on there, and all my contact pages are on my website. That's probably the easiest way, with all my website email addresses, etc., and telephone numbers.
Great, thank you. And if anyone out there does get in touch with you, mention the show, because Britt-Marie did promise to give you a little something special when you book through her or when you get in touch. So
I did, yes. So please do mention the show so I know that to offer you that discount.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.